Rise of the Lycan Princess. Chapter 11. Rime still glittered on the company's cloaks when Iron Crest's gates swung wide and a roar of welcome poured over the drawbridge. Children perched on parapets, waving sprigs of winter heather. Elders pressed hands to hearts in silent blessing. Smiths and traders called gratitude down to the riders, though fear flickered behind their relief. Narah felt the warmth of their faith like a hearth after days in snow. At her side, Ronan lifted a gauntleted hand, acknowledging cheers with a grave nod that carried both pride and caution. "Moonfire, bless you, princess," an old woman cried from a balcony. "Drive the shadows away." Narah reined Ember closer to the wall, meeting the woman's watery gaze. "We stand watch together," she answered, voice carrying. Murmurs rippled. Comfort. Resolve. Ronan's glance touched her profile, quiet pride warming the cold between them. Lucian dismounted first, favoring his healing thigh. "Easy," Talia chided, grabbing his bridle. He rolled tired eyes. "Save nagging for after the debrief." Behind them, Kale ordered the prisoners, traitorous guard and Crescent scout, dragged toward the cells. Rurik barked instructions as stable hands scattered to calm horses snorting at unfamiliar scents. Elias strode to Ronan and Narah, helm tucked beneath one arm. Citizens sensed something darker than raiders. He lowered his voice. Rumors spread faster than crows. Best douse them with truth before panic feeds Rhaegar's plans. Ronan's jaw set. Council within the hour. His hand brushed Narah's boot as she swung down, a fleeting reassurance that steadied her weary limbs. Freya's contented hum stirred inside, home ground for the moment. They advanced through the keep's archway, crowds parting. A small boy darted forward, thrusting a carved wolf fetish into Narah's hand. "For luck," he whispered, cheeks ruddy with cold. She knelt, clasping his mittened fingers. "It already worked," she said, tucking the token beneath her cloak. The boy beamed, running back to his mother. Ronan's faint smile lingered. In the torchlit corridor beyond, Maris bustled up, relief softening her lined face. "Thank all moons you return." She touched Narah's arm, then Ronan's. "Cook Reddy's broth and bread. Eat while you talk, at least." "We will," Ronan promised. They entered the high council chamber while daylight still slanted gold through narrow slits. Frost crackled on tapestries depicting ancient Lycan battles, but braziers beat back the chill. Ronan took the head seat, Narah at his right. Around the stone table gathered Lucian, Elias, Selene, Talia, Kyle, Rurik, Veska, and Maris, steaming mugs already in some hands, parchment stacks jostling elbows. Ronan opened without formality. "Rhaegar Blackbriar lives, commands Crescent remnants, and knows Ironcrest defenses. He escaped an explosion he set to bury us and remains at large." Murmurs broke. Veska's knuckles whitened on a quill. How many of his shadowkin survived the collapse? "Unknown," Kale replied. "Scout counts placed 24 fleeing north before sunrise, but others vanished in collapsing tunnels." Elias's gaze cut to Narah. "Ma'am, you share blood with this traitor. Anything you recall could aid the hunt." Narah met his eyes evenly. "Only lullaby fragments linking our lines. But I have accepted that his claim to kinship ends where his crimes begin." She raised her voice slightly, scanning faces. "Let the record be clear. Rhaegar's deeds stand condemned by his family as well as his foes." The emphatic statement pulled nods from Veska and Maris. Even Rurik's stern expression thawed to respect. Selene unfurled a chart inked with spiraling sigils. "Shadowkin channel nightroot magic. It feeds on fear, envy, and familial betrayal. Rhaegar's power grows when a blood relative falters. Narah's open defiance weakens his tether, but if he twists another of her line, he may still rise." Lucian bristled. "Twist father or mother, not while Blue Moon stands." Ronan steepled fingers. "Which leads to internal security." "Kale, Rurik, update." Kale's jaw clicked. "We discovered 2 further forged keys matching Apprentice Bram's picks. The Artificer's Forge remains sealed pending Celine's ward review. All-Star Iron Stores counted and locked. Rurik added, gate rotations shuffled. No soldier stands watch twice with the same partner this fortnight. Limits collusion. Maris slid supply ledger forward. Winter grain stocks hold, but refugee wave after yesterday's skirmish drains stores. We need escort runs to mountain farms by next waxing moon. Talia leaned over the table. I can lead archers for convoy cover. Elias grunted approval but stayed on topic. We also need to tighten rumor control. People fear crescent illusions. Ronan's gaze shifted to Narah. Subtle trust passed between them. She rose. I will speak publicly tomorrow at dawn. Assure the city that Moonfire and Iron Crest stand united. Her calm resonated across the chamber. Fear cannot fill cracks. We seal with truth. Veska tapped Quill twice, satisfied. That will calm markets. Ronan closed the meeting. Rest. Briefings resume at first light. The council dispersed in clusters, soft exchanges trailing into the halls. Lucian lingered, fingers drumming table. He glanced at Narah. Wine in the spar loft later? Sibling debrief? Promise, she said, squeezing his shoulder. Celine approached next, eyes bright behind fatigue. Meditation tonight. I sense visions chasing your dreams. Narah agreed, appointment set for the 10th bell. Kale offered a curt nod. Guards outside your door stay doubled. Thank you, Narah said. When only Ronan and Narah remained, the hall fell quiet. Fire crackles the soul sound. He exhaled, tension easing now that public faces had relaxed. You led well, he murmured. Her smile was gentle. So did you. We're learning the dance. She brushed ash, still dusting his sleeve. You said you hadn't slept. His lips quirked. Commander's curse. He motioned toward a side corridor. Walk. They followed torch-lit turns until a half-spiral stair opened onto a narrow balcony hammock between two towers. Snow drifted feather-soft in hidden eddies. Iron braziers threw amber halos on stone balusters. Below, the city's lanterns glowed like warm constellations. Ronan drew her to a cushioned alcove, sliding the heavy drape closed behind them, dampening wind. Here the world quiets, he said. He removed gloves, resting them by the brazier, then reached to tuck a silver lock behind Narah's ear. Heat flared where his fingertips grazed. I never thanked you, he continued. Your moonfire and your calm saved more than my soldiers. You saved me. From despair at betrayal. She eased closer, voice soft. And you steadied me when shadows whispered blood. She laid her palms on his chest, feeling life beat beneath layers. You are fortress and forge. His breath caught. He folded arms around her, drawing her into a quiet embrace. She let her cheek rest against his heart. Senses filled with pine resin scent. Leather warmth. Strength laced with vulnerability. He pressed his lips to her hairline, a reverent touch rather than claim. I fear losing you to this darkness, he admitted, voice low. I fear not fighting at your side, she answered. When they parted slightly, eyes held eyes. No words followed. Instead, his forehead touched hers, breaths mingling calm as heartbeat. In that hush, Freya's contented rumble echoed, assuring Narah of rightness in this closeness. Footsteps approached, Lucien's deliberate stride. Ronan stepped back, mask of composure sliding into place, though tenderness lingered in his gaze. Narah smiled at her brother over Ronan's shoulder. Wine? Lucien prompted. Promise, she echoed, brushing Ronan's hand once before following Lucian down the stair. They climbed to the spar loft where stored training mats served as makeshift seats. A single lantern swung overhead. Lucian poured crimson wine into tin cups. To moonfire moments. She clinked metal to metal, sipping the tart warmth. To reckless brothers who follow me into collapsing towers. He winced, touching his bandaged thigh. More reckless sisters who leap first. They fell into easy reflection. Childhood memories of stolen honey cakes, Lucian's early sword lessons, Narah's first shift. His voice softened. You scare me, you know. Not because you're fragile, but because you grow brighter each day. Stars burn hot before they die. She swallowed a knot. I'm not burning out, Lou, I'm burning forward. He ruffled her hair gently. I'll hold your trail lantern. Time slipped. Ninth bell tolled 2 floors below. Narah excused herself for Celine's meditation. Lucian watched her descend, eyes bright with fierce pride. Celine waited in a candlelit library chamber, cushions arranged around a rune-etched bowl of water. Sit. Narah obeyed. Celine traced symbols in lavender smoke, guiding Narah's breathing until thoughts stilled. When the water surface cleared, images swirled. Crescent banners ripple over a half-ruined city gate. Iron crest walls gleam bright, but fissure spreads beneath. Blue moon's banners hang tattered in silent halls. Rhaegar stands on a tower holding a chain of star iron linked through shadow. Freya's voice boomed inside the vision. Only hearts bonded by trust and blood bonded by truth can drive back shadows. Narah gasped, breaking the trance. Celine steadied her shoulders. What did you see? She relayed every fragment. Celine's mouth tightened. Ominous but not final. Prophecies warn, not decree. Nodding, Narah hurried to find Ronan and Lucian again, urgency coiling. She found them in Ronan's study. Celine joined. Narah spoke, voice trembling only once as she repeated Freya's words. Ronan took her hands. We will bond hearts and gather truths, we will not fail. A pounding on the great doors interrupted. Elias entered with Kael, flanking 2 cloaked figures dusted in road grime. Blue Moon emissaries, Elias announced. One lowered his hood, Advisor Jaren, a familiar elder from Narah's childhood. Tears brightened his eyes at seeing her. Princess. He bowed. Your parents send urgent plea. She rushed forward. They are safe? For now. Jaren offered a sealed scroll. Rhaegar's followers gather near Larkspur Ridge, stirring dissent. Some nobles question open support for Ironcrest. Ronan accepted the scroll, scanning swiftly. His jaw clenched. We must respond in person. Lucian frowned. An exposed journey in winter? Foolish. Narah stepped between, voice clear. Not journey. Mission. We go to my family and stand before wavering houses. Our presence shows unity. Elias's brows furrowed. We cannot spare the king's guard. You cannot spare a divided realm, Narah countered. Courage binds alliances, not walls. Ronan's gaze lingered on her, pride evident. I will accompany the princess. Lucian started protest. Ronan lifted a hand. Peace. We dispatch a strong but swift escort. Kael commands fortress in my absence. Arguments swelled. Elias's security concerns, Celine's magical contingencies. Finally, consensus formed. Ronan, Narah, Lucian, Elias, Talia, and 20 elite riders would depart in 2 dawns, swift and light. Preparations unfurled through the night. Maris mended travel cloaks with silent determination. Talia sharpened arrowheads, muttering battle blessings. Dawn bled pink when Lucian intercepted Narah in an anteroom, pressing a leather packet into her palm. Emergency signal flares, he said. Use if separated. She hugged him tight. You'll be there. Always. His voice cracked. Even when I scold. Ronan entered moments later, cloaking himself in black fur mantle. Time. They walked to the gate where horses stamped steam into frosty air. Kyle saluted. Veska presented sealed supply lists. Citizens watched silently as gate chains clanked. Narah swung onto Ember, the carved wolf fetish tied to her saddle. Ronan mounted beside her on Nightwind. Just then, hoofbeats thundered from the east path. An Iron Crest scout, face ashen, blood darkening his sleeve. He slid from his horse stumbling toward Ronan. Rhaegar, he rasped, An army, hidden, struck Blue Moon at dawn. His knees buckled. Lucian caught him. Breath wheezed. The capital's fires. No word from the palace. The king and queen may be lost. The courtyard gasped. Narah's heart plummeted, a hollow thud before racing wild. She slid from her saddle, grasped the scout's cloak. "Tell me you're wrong." He shook, pain twisting his features. "I saw the banners fall." Freya's growl reverberated in her skull. Ronan stepped to her side, face carved in granite. "We ride now," he said, voice a promise edged in steel. Elias barked for fresh horses. Lucian checked his quiver with shaking hands. Narah met Ronan's gaze, fear and fire mingling. He clasped her hand once, fiercely. Freya whispered inside, "Trust no shadows, even familiar ones." Gates groaned open. Without another word, Narah vaulted onto Ember, heels punching into girth. Snow flurried as hooves thundered across the bridge. Behind her, Iron Crest's bells tolled a mournful, urgent knell. Blue Moon's fate hung in that peal, and Narah's heart burned with desperate resolve as she and Ronan led the charge into a dawn reddening with smoke. Ironcrest portcullis slammed shut behind the riders, steel chains rattling like thunder still echoing in Narah's ears. Snow lashed her cheeks as she urged Ember across the white-crusted plain, Ronan's black nightwind thundering beside her. 20 elites followed, Lucian, Elias, Talia, and Celine, holding tight formation. Kale's squad remained to guard the city. Only the hiss of wind and the dull pounding of hooves cut the stunned silence. Everyone grappled with the scout's words. Blue Moon silent, fate unknown. An hour later, Ronan signaled halt beneath a stand of firs bent heavy with ice. The riders gathered, steam rolling from mounts. Lucian dismounted first, teeth clenched. "We press until the animals drop, or we rest and reach them alive." "Two options." "We rest," Ronan said, voice a low growl. "Swap mounts at Stonebrook outpost. Fresh horses, lighter packs. Celine, how far until moonrise?" 6 hours, she answered, glancing at cloud-shrouded sky. "A sliver only, but Rhaegar favors darkness. We should camp once, before the high ridge, and ride under night's cover." Narah stroked Ember's sweaty neck. "Stonebrook sits behind steep pines. Shelter there. We can send ravens south to any survivors on the trade roads." Elias surveyed tracks. "Agreed. But keep torches dim. Crescent scouts could shadow us." Talia lifted her bow. Arrow knocked, though they stopped. "I'll take rear watch." Ronan's eyes met Narah's. Grief and determination warred behind his stoic calm. He touched her gloved hand. "We will find them." The brief contact steadied her. Freya's voice hummed, "Hold the line of hope." They rode on as the landscape shifted from rolling white to jagged outcroppings scarred by past avalanches. The cold bit deeper, but urgency burned hotter. Near dusk, Stonebrook's palisade emerged, a stout timber circle half buried by drifts. Smoke curled weakly from the watchtower. Inside, 3 garrison wolves met them with wide eyes. "News reached us only by rumor," their captain stammered to Ronan. "We have mounts rested, ready for your command." Ronan acknowledged, then waved Narah toward the outpost's inner lodge, a low hall of rough-hewn logs warmed by a central hearth. Inside, Maris's travel packs were unloaded. She busied herself setting out bread, dried fruits, healing salves. Her hands trembled until Narah hugged her close. "Princess, may the moon keep your parents," Maris whispered, voice cracking. "Eat something, child." Lucian joined, pressing a steaming mug into Narah's hands. "Drink. You'll need every spark." Ronan stood by the hearth, unbuckling his cloak. The flickering light painted harsh angles of fatigue on his face. Narah crossed to him. "When did you last rest more than an hour?" she asked softly. "Before Ravenspire," he admitted. She set her mug down, reached up, and brushed stray snow from his hair. 10 minutes. Sit." They settled on a bench near the fire. The others drifted to their tasks, leaving a pocket of quiet. Ronan's shoulders sagged, exhaustion showing beneath duty. Narah clasped his hand. "Tell me your fear," she murmured. "That I cannot protect both kingdoms." His voice was scarcely above the crackle of logs. "That while I ride here, Iron Crest will fracture, and Blue Moon may fall before I arrive." "You shoulder two fortresses, but they're built on more than stone," she whispered back. "They're built on people willing to fight because you lead with honor." He looked at her then, gray eyes shining with raw vulnerability. She raised his hand to her cheek, holding it there a heartbeat. "Believe in the walls you forged in hearts," she said. He bent forward, pressing his forehead to hers in silent thanks. No further words. Just shared breath. The warmth of fire, the steady thud of two worried hearts. Celine entered, clearing her throat gently. "Forgive me." She offered a small rune-etched vial. "Moon elixir, 2 swallows each for recovery." They drank, a cool sweetness blooming into strength. Celine added quietly, "Princess, a brief reflection before we ride again?" Ronan squeezed Narah's fingers once, then rose to check maps with Lucian and Elias. Narah followed Celine to a side chamber where a single candle burned blue. Talia stood guard at the door. "Close eyes," Celine instructed. Narah obeyed, grounding through boot soles to the earth. Freya's presence flooded in. Celine's voice softened into chant. The candle flame elongated, forming shifting images. Blue Moon's marble towers bathed in red glow. Crescent banners clawing spires. Ravens circling heavy with ash on wings. Rhaegar loomed, holding chains that merged into twisting shadows. Then the vision split. One path showed Narah standing beside Ronan, their joined hands emitting blinding silver that shattered chains. The other path showed them separated, each encircled by darkness while Crescent forces claimed the last unbroken moon crest. Freya's voice echoed. "Only hearts bonded by trust and blood bonded by truth can drive back shadows." Images faded. Narah opened her eyes, breath shaking. Celine's brow glistened with sweat. "I saw too," she whispered. "Unity is your shield. Doubt, your downfall." Narah nodded, resolve stealing. "I'll tell Ronan and Lucian." Back in the common hall, she relayed the vision quietly to them. Lucian's jaw flexed. "Then we do not let fear wedge us apart." Elias entered carrying fresh horse's tack. "Night is lifting. Time dot." Narah approached Maris one last time. The healer pressed a small packet of dried sage and lavender into her palm. "For calm," she said. Narah hugged her fiercely. Talia tightened Narah's cloak clasp. "I'll be right behind you. Eyes sharp." She winked, hiding her own worry. Outside, the moon, a pale sickle, peered through scudding clouds. They mounted fresh steeds. Narah rode a swift, piebald mare. As the company filed through the outpost gate, a distant, low howl echoed, a lone wolf call traveling across frozen valleys. Freya answered in Narah's mind, voicing determination louder than doubt. Hours later, across icy flats, elk trails, and bending stands of birch, the riders paused atop a rise. Ahead, the southern horizon glowed unnaturally orange, faint but ominous. Narah's stomach nodded. Ronan's voice cut the night. "Blue moon fires, we push harder." Talia sped ahead, scouting the path. Celine murmured protective mantras. At dawn's first smear of gray, snow began falling, thick, silent, muffling hoofbeats and muting conversation. The orange glow faded behind curtains of swirling white, cloaking the land in hushed dread. They reached Windward Crossing by mid-morning, a blue moon border outpost. The guard tower's banners hung limp, burnt ends flapping. Gates stood open. Lucian's face drained at the sight. He spurred forward, shouting. No answer. Inside the courtyard, drifts covered overturned wagons, blood-stained snow at intervals, half buried. No bodies lay, either taken or reclaimed by wolves. Ronan dismounted, sword drawn. Narah followed, heart hammering. Talia checked the barracks. Empty. Elias found broken chains near the smithy, edges soaked in ruin dust. Celine's runestone glowed faint violet, detecting recent shadow magic. They struck quickly, withdrew east, she said. Lucian crouched, fingers brushing shards of blue glass. Palace messenger vial, he whispered. They tried to send ravens, but were stopped. Narah's gaze caught a patch of silver in the snow. She knelt, retrieving a cloak pin, blue moon crest carved with lilies. Her breath caught. Captain Arden wore this. Ronan stepped beside her, laying a steadying hand on her shoulder. Find tracks, he ordered quietly to Elias. We hunt. As Elias and scouts fanned out, Celine approached Narah. Your family may have retreated deeper into the capital, or fled to the mountain keep. Until we know, hold fast to hope. Snowfall thickened, burying prints almost as fast as scouts uncovered them. A horn blast, Elias summoned. They gathered at a trail leading into groves of frost-laced spruce, where blood droplets peppered the ice. Fresh and bright. They heard prisoners, Elias muttered. He pointed to boot patterns spaced like forced march. Direction, toward Larkspur Ridge. Ronan's eyes narrowed. Rhaegar's staging ground. Narah's pulse roared in her ears. She turned to her company. We cut that march in half. Rescue first, strike next. Lucian slung his bow. Lead the charge. They pushed forward, snow rising to fetlock. Freya enhanced Narah's senses. Blood iron scent in frosty air, muffled moans on wind shards. Mid-afternoon, they crested a bluff overlooking a shallow valley. Below, Crescent soldiers trudged through drifts, prodding a column of prisoners. Blue moon guards, healers, townsfolk. No sign of the king or queen. Rhaegar himself was absent, but a lieutenant carried a black standard. Ronan turned to Celine. Can you mask our approach? I can dull sight and sound for moments, she replied, gripping her staff. She traced sigils in the air, silver mist unfurled, cloaking their small force. Ronan's gaze fell on Narah. Ready? She met it, fierce. As ever. They clasped forearms, bond humming bright. Freya's growl reverberated. Lucian signaled arrows. Talia exhaled, drawing fletching to cheek. Celine's mist wove around them. The company slid down the slope silently as ghosts. At 30 paces, the mist dropped. Talia's arrow sang, striking the standard bearer. Ronan and Narah crashed into the flank as one. Steel clashed, snow sprayed crimson. Prisoners ducked, then realized rescue. Shouts of hope rose. Narah's mare leapt a fallen warrior. She dismounted mid-charge, blades flashing. Freya's energy guided her strikes, precise and efficient. She sliced a chain, freeing 3 prisoners who stumbled back with grateful cries. Across the skirmish, Ronan's sword broke a pike. He punched the wielder to ground and spun to guard Narah's side instinctively. They fought in harmony. Silent communication through glances and movement. Elias's horn blared a signal. Enemy reinforcements approaching east tree line. Lucian shouted, Second wave, 50 strong. Ronan's voice thundered. Circle the prisoners, protect. Warriors tightened around freed captives. Snow churned under boots. Narah spotted a crescent captain raising a flare toward distant ridge. If that burst, Rhaegar would learn of the ambush. She sprinted, blades flicking. The captain sent the flare, spitting crimson sparks skyward. She lunged, chopping the man's arm. The tube flew up. With desperate burst, she channeled moonfire into her sword, hurling a silver arc that vaporized the flare midair. Sparks vanished in white haze. A cheer rose behind her. Wave 2 crashed against Iron Crest shields. Talia's arrows felled advance fighters. Celine hurled runic bolts. Narah and Ronan anchored the front, blades weaving bright arcs. At last the enemy faltered, discipline breaking. Survivors fled toward Larkspur Ridge. Ronan raised sword, blood steaming off steel. Hold pursuit. Aid wounded. They gathered prisoners quickly, counting 35 souls. None royal. Narah knelt beside a guard with chest wound. Your king, queen? She pressed. The man coughed, shaking. Still inside the palace yesterday morning. Rhaegar breached Western Gate. He slipped into unconsciousness. Narah swallowed dread. Snow abated, sun dipping behind ridge, casting long violet shadows. Ronan's expression hardened. We escort these folk to Windward, then push to the capital under moonlight. Lucienne murmured a silent prayer. Talia checked her quiver. Only 2 arrows left. Elias wiped his blade, eyes cold. They gathered, bond of purpose binding them tighter. Narah looked toward distant snowy spires where Blue Moon Palace lay unseen. Fire still tinged sky faint orange beyond the ridge. She felt fear. Yes, but more. She felt the backing of Iron Crest warriors, her mate's unwavering presence, Freya's relentless spirit. She mounted the piebald again. Ronan pulled Nightwind alongside. Their eyes met, shared resolve sparking in the frozen dusk. We take back your home, he vowed. And defend ours, she replied. They rode west, rescuing shadows trailing behind, fresh storms gathering ahead. Windward Crossing's half-burned stockades offered grim refuge for the rescued townsfolk. Night settled hard, the falling snow now tinged by sparks carried on the breeze from distant fires. While Talia and Selene set protective wards around the makeshift camp, Ronan convened a huddle beneath a damaged watchtower roof. Lucian spread a stained palace map across a crate. Capital walls here. He tapped. Western Gate destroyed. Reports say Eastern Gate may still hold. Elias pointed to a narrow route threading through orchards behind the palace. Service road. Less patrol. Narah traced the path with gloved finger, recalling childhood outings. Orchard Lane connects to South Drainage Culvert, large enough for mounted wolves in human form. She looked up. Father showed me once when we picked moon apples. Ronan's gaze sharpened. We slipped through there inside the walls before dawn. Selene nodded. Cover of fresh snowfall masks tracks. I'll suppress our scent for 90 heartbeats, enough to enter culvert unseen. Kale, returning from prisoner triage, knelt beside the map. Scouts report Crescent Field Camp assembling siege engines outside West Quarter. Rhaegar not present, but Lieutenant Martek leads. 200 wolves, maybe more. Then speed matters. Ronan's tone allowed no dissent. He glanced at Narah. We ride under half moon. You lead us through the orchard. Narah inhaled slowly, feeling the weight of coming hours. Freya's steady presence pulsed. We reclaim home. Before departure, she walked the camp, stopping where survivors huddled under tarps. An elderly seamstress gripped Narah's sleeve. Princess, bless you. Shadows crept over houses. Your moonfire will chase them. Narah knelt, squeezing the woman's frail hand. Shadows fear united hearts. Keep faith a little longer. Tears gleamed in the woman's eyes. Nearby children wrapped in blankets dozed by a weak flame. Narah produced the carved wolf fetish and tucked it into a small girl's palm. The child stirred, whispering, Light comes. Narah's chest tightened. Back at the supply wagons, Lucienne tightened quivers, checking his flares. He paused, eyes glistening in torchlight. Remember when we raced along orchard walls to steal apples? He asked softly. She smiled. You climbed higher, but I landed softer. Land soft tonight. He drew her into a fierce embrace. If we split, signal twice. Twice, she promised. Elias mounted a roan, scanning the dark horizon. Torches extinguished. We ghost. Narah swung onto Ember's saddle. Now padded with a blue and silver blanket Selene had charmed against fatigue. Ronan guided Nightwind beside her. Their eyes met, a silent exchange of fear and resolve. He reached over, brushing gloved knuckles along her forearm. Spark of courage ignited. Selene muttered an incantation. Cool air rippled around them, muffling hoofbeats, dulling scent. Ronan signaled forward. The column moved, slipping from the camp into the vast white hush. Hours crawled beneath low clouds. Snow swallowed sound. billowing knee-deep as they reached rolling foothills south of the city. At last, the orchard lane emerged, rows of skeletal apple trees coated in ice, branches clacking faintly. Farther off, the city's outline rose, a silhouette of towers, some broken, others lit with flickering red. Lucien edged forward. No patrols. He slipped from saddle, moving ahead on foot. Minutes later, he flashed a hand signal. Clear. The lane ended at a stone wall half buried in drifts. Narah dismounted, leading the group to a narrow, ivy-choked gap. Beyond, orchard shadows stretched. Talia approached, arrow-fitted. I'll sweep right flank. Ronan touched Narah's shoulder. Show us the culvert. She guided them to a stand of frost-scarred birches concealing a grate set into an embankment. Snow piled against rusted bars. Lucien and Elias pried metal aside with daggers wrapped in cloth to muffle clang. Cold, damp air breathed out. Ronan lowered first, splashing into ankle-deep water. One by one, warriors followed. Narah entered last, Celine replacing the grate and whispering runes to hide their passage. Inside the culvert, torchlight was forbidden. Instead, Celine's palm glowed faint silver, illuminating slick stone walls. Water trickled, echoing. Narah led, memory guiding turns until a wider junction opened beneath the palace gardens. A ladder of iron spikes climbed to a hatch. Lucien climbed, pressing ear to stone. After a heartbeat, he whispered, "Quiet above." With Elias bracing, he shoved. The hatch lifted onto snowy earth behind crumbling hedgerows. They emerged into gardens once tended in elaborate spirals. Now, broken benches and toppled statues littered paths. Smoke drifted from shattered greenhouse panes. In the distance, flames flickered where western walls lay breached. Split into pairs, Ronan ordered. Kale's unit to secure East Gate, provide exit if needed. Celine with Lucien to find the king and queen's safe room. Elias, Talia with me and Narah to reach Throne Wing. Kale clasped Narah's forearm. Moon guide. Then his squad ghosted through a U-arch. Narah moved beside Ronan along a gravel path. Freya's senses stretched, scent of blood, charred timber, fear. Torch beams swung at garden perimeter, 2 crescent guards. Elias motioned. Talia loosed twin arrows, dropping them without cry. They raced across open lawn to the palace's south colonnade. Doors hung ajar, tapestry scraps fluttering. Inside, corridors bronzed by torch glare echoed with distant shouts. Ronan pressed Narah against a marble pillar, whispering, "Stay close." They advanced room by room. Burn marks scarred frescoes of Blue Moon heroes. Chandeliers shattered. At the grand stair, crescent soldiers stood watch. Elias drew a throwing knife. Ronan shook his head, gesturing for alternate route. They slipped through library doors. Shelves smoldered, pages drifting like snowflakes in stale smoke. Narah's throat constricted at the ruin of cherished childhood refuge. Ronan squeezed her hand briefly, then pointed upward. Library mezzanine led to servants' spiral stair. Climbing in darkness, they reached a corridor outside the Royal Solar. Crescent voices barked inside. No sign of them. Search the catacombs. Another replied, Rhaegar wants the queen alive. Narah's blood froze. Alive, but captured. Ronan's expression hardened. He mouthed, stun and silence. Elias counted down with fingers. On 3, Ronan and Narah burst through. Blades drawn. Surprise favored them. Narah slashed a staff wielder's hamstring. Ronan disarmed and knocked another unconscious. Talia pinned the last with an arrow to the shoulder, silencing him with a kick to the head. Solar wreckage greeted them. Overturned couches, hearth ash scattered. But a hidden door behind a tapestry stood ajar, revealing stair descending to vault rooms. They took them below. Narah whispered. Ronan nodded. We follow. He checked the unconscious guard's insignia. Silver thornbar. Elite. They descended into chilled stone passages smelling of damp earth. Sigils glowed faint red ahead. Crescent ward alarm. Selene would normally dissolve, but she was elsewhere. Ronan inspected the glyph. Trip lines attuned to shadow magic. Moonfire may counter. Narah inhaled, focusing energy into her palms. Silver threads shimmered. She pressed them to the glyph. Light sputtered, then winked out. A soft click signaled alarm disabled. They moved quickly, emerging into a vaulted antechamber outside the royal crypt, a sacred hall where Blue Moon ancestors rested. Crescent torches lined the walls. 4 guards patrolled. At the far arch, Rhaegar's Lieutenant Martech dragged chained figures. The Lycan king, crown dented, and the queen, wrists bound but chin high. Narah's vision tunneled. Freya roared. Ronan seized her hand to ground her but nodded. Attack imminent. Elias whispered, 4 here, 10 beyond. Talia's arrow count 7. We create distraction, Ronan decided. Narah and Elias free the royals. He stepped into light, voice thunderous. Martech. All heads whipped toward him. Turn and face judgment. Martech sneered. Iron King travels fast. He shoved the king hard. The queen cried out softly. Narah's chest blazed. Martech drew curved blades. Rhaegar welcomes your head. Talia's arrow took the first guard before he could raise alarm. Chaos erupted. Ronan engaged Martech. Steel clanged, sparks showering on crypt stones. Narah darted under a swinging halberd, slicing the wielder's thigh. Elias flanked, hamstringing a second guard. She reached her parents. Mother! Tears blurred. The queen's eyes widened with joy, even bound. Narah, my moon, she whispered. Narah slashed chains. The king steadied himself, blood on his temple. No time, Narah urged. Follow Elias. The captain guided them toward cover behind a sarcophagus while Narah turned back. Ronan battled Martech fiercely. The lieutenant fought with shadow-forged daggers emitting violet sparks. Ronan parried, but a backhand slice tore his bicep. Blood-soaked cloth. Narah lunged, intercepting the second dagger with her sword. Moonfire burst, forcing Martech back. Ronan caught Narah's eye. Together they pressed forward, twin blades driving Martech to retreat. At last, Ronan feinted high. Narah swept low, severing Martech's left hamstring. The lieutenant fell, snarling. Ronan knocked him senseless with pommel blow. But pounding boots echoed, reinforcements rushing downstairs. Retreat, Ilias called, ushering king and queen toward stair opposite. Ronan hoisted Martech over shoulder. Information, he grunted. They bolted, Narah supporting her mother. They emerged into a service tunnel. Lucian and Selene appeared from shadow, relief etched on faces. East gate primed, Lucian said. Kale holds escape route. Shouts echoed behind. Selene traced sigils. Stone collapsed, blocking pursuit. We'll hold minutes. They fled up through pantry halls into orchard yard, snow now knee-deep but moon bright. Kale waved from the gap in the wall where horses waited. Prisoner Martech gagged and bound. Queen stumbled. Narah steadied. Outside, crescent horns blared, patrols converging. Ronan mounted Nightwind, pulling Martech across saddle. The king hoisted up behind Lucian. Queen clutched Narah's waist on Ember. Ride, Ronan commanded. The group galloped into moon-washed orchards, arrows whistling overhead. Talia fired back, picking off pursuers. Once they reached snow-cloaked plains, Elias called halt. No crescent lights followed. In sheltered dell, Selene bound Ronan's wound with glowing salve. Narah hugged her mother, tears freezing on cheeks. The queen stroked her hair. You returned like dawn, my darling. The king clasped Ronan's forearm. Our realm owes much to Ironcrest. He sagged, weary but alive. Martech stirred. Kale tightened bindings. Ronan addressed the group. We ride east to gather refugees, then back to Ironcrest to regroup. Narah looked west, the palace spires silhouetted against smoldering sky. Rhaegar still lurked, but the royal line endured. Freya's voice whispered pride. Snowflakes fell softer now, painting the night in fragile hope as the company rode toward uncertain dawn, hearts bonded by trust, blood bonded by truth.